The Whitney Museum was designed by Marcel Breuer and completed construction in 1966. Located at 945 Madison Avenue, New York City, New York, the building became an immediate icon for the city. Unlike the order of this course, understanding the structure jumps scales, from the larger site to setting, then to shelter. Throughout this process, three major ideas that connected the boundaries of scale came forward: concepts of permanence, cultural influence, and flexibility in space. Beginning with site. Unlike a typical architectural approach, the site of the Whitney Museum lies in the greater context of art movements and art museums in New York City. Following World War II, New York City was experiencing increased immigration of European contemporary artists who occupied the areas of Soho and Lower Manhattan. The Whitney, who was financially struggling at the time, needed increased business, so they picked up on the public's increased interest of the arts and shifted their collection to be an American contemporary art museum. Archiving their historic collection, the Whitney sought to be a new public institution of contemporary art for New York City. The Whitney, shown in pink, selected its new site location to be in direct competition with the most prominent art museums in New York City. They wanted to establish the organization as a permanent major art institution in Midtown Manhattan. Additionally, during the 1960s, the art scene was expanding and gaining public interest throughout New York. Major historic art institutions received major financial investment, and the public were becoming more and more interested in contemporary works. Seen in this chart, the Whitney's design would be primed to accept this new and diverse art scene during the 1960s. As the Gallatin Gallery for Contemporary Art, one of New York's only contemporary art institutions, had closed nearly 10 years prior, the Whitney took the opportunity. Also notable is the timing of the Guggenheim's move to its new location at Fifth Avenue. This new location of the Guggenheim Museum, designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, was opened to the public in 1964. This new iconic structure was one of the largest changes to the New York art scene in over 40 years and spurred Marcel Breuer to create another iconic form along New York's Central Park. The resulting design of the building reflects the site context of the time. The new iconic form battles the Guggenheim, the open space welcomes the public, and the large storage areas house the archived historic collections. The setting of the building. Planning for contemporary and shifting artworks, the building's design prioritized flexibility above all else. Looking at the larger integration of the architecture as material and as space, the display and curation of artworks is the main activity of the structure. Unlike the Guggenheim, Breuer's structure uses uniformity to drive the architecture and allow for maximum flexibility. Looking through the floor plans, Breuer created a large open gallery that allows for the museum and curators to rearrange the space as needed for new exhibitions. This flexibility reflects the intention of being responsive and changing contemporary arts museum. These galleries utilize a simple system of climate control, electric conduits, and concrete ceiling grids to enable such flexibility and change. Breuer's architecture does not impose itself onto the artwork. The spaces are neutral to allow the art to stand out. This contrasts with the Guggenheim, where the artwork is secondary to the architecture. At this setting scale, additional analysis was completed with the Langrerian boundaries. Breuer's museum allows for the frequent turnover of ideas and concepts from contemporary artists across the country. As the building continues to be a museum for over 50 years, the artwork and ideas that flow through the space define the changing boundary of influence from across the country. Through this video, over 1,100 data points were collected of the most popular artists to go on exhibition at the Whitney. Their place of birth, art movement, and number of works in the collection visualize how contemporary ideas of art have shifted through time. This animation reflects how art spans distances in a physical and temporal manner. Lastly, shelter. As flexibility and permanence have driven the architectural intentions across all scales, Brewer stuck to a massive approach to building construction. Attempting to create his icon, he used heavy granite cladding over massive concrete construction. This assembly was also supported by a steel structure, creating the large open gallery spaces needed to maintain flexibility. Imposing this idea of permanence and a larger lack of awareness for sustainability, the structure became to be known as the Castle on Madison Avenue. Utilizing a Revit model to create a material takeoff, Brewer's use of energy-heavy materials becomes apparent. The concrete and steel construction is massive in weight and scale. Further analysis and comparison to other life cycles might inform if this building's lasting resilience and permanence of construction is equitable to its sustainability impacts. However, the building has remained in nearly the same condition for 50 plus years, so the architectural permanence of the material becomes apparent. Through this analysis, Brewer's architecture becomes larger than the structure. Cultural and political movements not only informed the design, but also exemplifies the architecture's permanence throughout time. Thank you very much.